Alright guys, so I said yesterday I was going to do a video of 10, like when I did my 10 lesser known slasher movies, I said if that movie got a little more traction I would do a 10 lesser known monster movies for you to check out. Now this isn't a top 10, this is just a recommendation video for 10 movies you should watch for spooky season. Yeah, I wanted to do this after doing the slasher video, and I'm glad I had enough traction to make me go, yeah. And this is for creature features. I don't think I'll be doing, like, for 10 lesser-known vampire movies. It's just kind of a mishmash of monster movies here. But yeah, now creature feature movies are interesting because, like, there's just so many, and I can't just name 10. And some of you guys may know some of these. There's a few international cuts in here. And honestly, there's some fun, this is not a top 10 list like I stated earlier. This is more of, hey, you want to check out some spooky monster movies or, well, some fun ones, some movies that you can just shut your brain off and just watch? Here you go. Here's 10 monster movies you may not have heard of. You can go check them out. A lot of them are on Tubi. Again, the goat of horror movie movies. For streaming, at least. So let's get started. So the first movie I'm going to talk about is Unnatural. Unnatural is a very lesser-known monster movie that is kind of hard to find, but now it's on Tubi. And basically the story is... It was an early 2000s monster movie, and essentially it's about this sleazy... smut photographer and a couple models going out into the wilderness to take pictures. Meanwhile, there's a genetically engineered polar bear going around killing people. That's the plot. I'm not joking. It's a complete and total weird-ass movie that I watched it, and first time I watched it, I was like, this is kind of dumb. Second time, I had a lot more fun. The polar bear in question is made of practical effects, which I really like. There's some good character actors throughout the film, and while it's nothing important and the plot's really weak, all you need is, sometimes you just want a giant bear killing people. I was going to put Prophecy here, but Prophecy's gotten a lot of traction lately. And this movie is basically a Prophecy remake without being a Prophecy remake. That's really all I can say about this movie. So moving on to our next movie that I'm going to recommend to you guys, The Breed. Now, The Breed is interesting because they're not really monsters, it's just killer dogs. So the movie is a group of college friends, and by college friends I mean like in their 30s pretending to be like younger, going to a secluded island, island cabin in the woods kind of story. But however, it turns out that the island was also home to a project not so much genetically engineering dogs, but training them, and the facility was left behind, leaving the dogs to go feral and craving human meat. So that's the story, is just killer dogs. This also has a very young, earlier in her career, Michelle Rodriguez, and also the actress who played a Power Ranger. She played the Yellow Dino Thunder Ranger. It's a dumb movie. The dog kills are pretty fun, though. This is a movie that you can find, I think, on Peacock and a few other places. Hell, I think you can find it here on YouTube, honestly. It's a lot of fun, and this is not going to win any awards. This is a movie that, while the animals aren't like genetically engineered or demonic or superhuman, it's kind of cool to remember that dogs can kill people too. In fact, dogs kill people more than sharks. Food for thought right there. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw this out here. Anyway, next movie on the list, Frankenstein's Army. Frankenstein's Army is a found footage movie that is a period piece movie too. It's set during the final days of World War II, with a squad of Russian soldiers going deep into German territory and finding the grandson of Victor Frankenstein, who's making horrible monsters for the Nazi party, for the Nazi regime. This has got the found footage thing is kind of dumb, but it works, especially with the twist with the cameraman. Plus, it's kind of cool to see a period piece found footage movie. Not only that, this is the closest we will ever get to a really good Resident Evil movie. This is the closest we will ever, because it actually feels like a Resident Evil movie. Genetic terrors, a village that's, it's closest we'll ever get. Just let it happen. Plus, there's some great practical effects with the creature designs. They're imaginative, they're bloody, it's just all around gore, and it's probably one of the most unique things I've seen done with the property of Frankenstein in the public domain for any movies. I highly recommend this movie if you haven't seen it already. It's also one of my favorite found footage movies, and is just an all-around carnage candy film. And again, it's a really unique idea of having a found footage movie set during set during World War II. I really do hope that we would get more found footage period piece found footage movies. I would really like to see that in the near future. So, next movie I'm going to recommend to you guys, The Monster That Challenged the World. The Monster That Challenged the World is a forgotten 50s monster movie. It came out in the same era as Them, The Deadly Mantis, Tarantula, the Earth vs. the Saucers. You know what I mean. This was a movie that was more or less forgotten among the shuffle of the 50s movies. It's actually kind of a nice, tense story. It does take a while to get into, but that's the part of the course with a lot of 50s movies. I will say that probably it depends on how much you're going to like the monster. While the monster design is really cool, and the design for it and the effects for it are really neat, the difference here is that the monster is a radioactive snail. Yeah, the monsters are just radioactive mollusks. But they're really cool, and they have a very striking design to them. It's got some nice characters in there, but you got to remember this is the 50s, so remind yourself of that. I highly recommend it. Again, it's a movie that I think would have done better if it had a little more leeway. And again, it was coming out in the same time as around Them and a lot of other of the Atomic era big bug movies. So yeah. Next up, another found footage movie, and this one's a Bigfoot movie, and that is Exists. Exists does have a little traction, but it's not well known among people. One of the reasons why I really enjoy Exist is because, yes, it is from one of the directors of Blair Witch Project, but don't worry, you actually see Bigfoot. In fact, you see him a lot. This is set around a group of friends going to a cabin in the woods, that whole spiel, and however, during the trip there, they accidentally kill, in a car accident, a young Bigfoot, and the parent goes on a revenge spree against these douchebags. There's some great camera work in here. The Bigfoot suit is really good, and there are some genuine moments of absolute terror because this Sasquatch. This is also set in East Texas, by the way. So East Texas Bigfoot in cryptozoology has always been said to be like a big violent monster. So it's real. I like that kind of matches with the cryptozoology of that specific species of Sasquatch. It's got some great effects to it. Some genuine scares and some very tense moments. I watched this not too long ago with my girlfriend. I showed it to her, and we were in the dark. And she's a Texas girl herself, and even she was like, "Yeah, I've seen those kind of woods before, and it's fucking scary." So yeah, if you're looking for this is a fun one. And again, don't worry if you're one of those people who's like, "I don't like Blair Witch Project because you actually don't see anything." Don't worry, you see Bigfoot. A lot. Next movie on our list, Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer. Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer is like a low-rent Evil Dead movie. It's about this guy taking night school and finding an ancient gem that corrupts his college professor, played by his night school teacher, played by Robert Englund, who turns into a big, Jabba the Hutt looking potato monster. He's not really a potato, he just kind of looks like Jabba the Hutt deep-throated a potato. That's all I'm going to say. It's wacky, it's fun, it's very it's like I said, a low-rent Evil Dead film. If you want to see some fun carnage candy and just a lot of love for classic monster movies, there you go, Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer. Next movie on our list is a Chinese movie, Chaws. Chaws is a giant killer pig movie, which shockingly, there's a lot of giant killer pig movies. Yeah, like Razorback, Boar, this one. There's a lot of killer pig movies. Yeah, Pig Hunt, another one. There's a lot of giant killer pig movies, a substantial amount, actually. Jaws is kind of a horror comedy, where it's a film that's basically kind of a lot like, it's a lot like Jaws, hence the name, like Jaws, get it? But instead of a giant shark, it's a giant pig. The pig effects are really cool. The characters are really neat, and there's actually some brutal deaths in here, too. This pig does not give a fuck. Now, our next movie on our list is pretty interesting because this movie is actually a Stephen King novel. Technically, it's a short story, but it was a very much forgotten a movie. It's a very much forgotten Stephen King movie called Night Flyer. Night Flyer is the other vampire story that Stephen King did long after Salem's Lot. No, these are not connected. Essentially, it follows a tabloid photographer who does some really horrible things, played by Miguel Ferrer, who is on the trail of the series of brutal murders committed at small airports by this unknown being called the Night Flyer, who turns out to be a vampire. It's a cool cat and mouse game and very psychological, and you really feel kind of dirty for following Miguel Ferrer's character because his character is just disgustingly awful. All he cares about is getting the shot. All he cares about is, himself. And by the end of the movie, you're just kind of like, I don't know if I'm glad how that ended or not. So, this is a movie, when you talk about Stephen King movies, this is one no one really talks about, and I'm actually shocked by that. But, yeah. So, next on our list is Night of the Blood Beast. Night of the Blood Beast is fascinating because the title alone makes you think it's like a parody of some movie. But no, this is a movie featuring a bloodthirsty giant moth monster. Yeah, it's not Mothman. This is kind of a faux Hammer horror film, really. And it also has Peter Cushing, who's looking into the murders himself. With any movie, with any creature feature movie, and I could have picked a lot from this, but I picked Night of the Blood Beast specifically, because this was a movie even I didn't know was a thing until I was on, of course, the GOAT, Tubi, and I was just kind of watching the movie like, hey, Peter Cushing's in here! What the fuck is going on? And you're kind of like that most of the time. But hey, there's nothing wrong with having Peter Cushing in your movie, giving it a bit of class, no matter how goddamn ridiculous it is. If you want a fun time, and this is not a Hammer film, but it clearly wants to be a Hammer film. Kind of like how Horror Express was, which I was tempted on here, but it has kind of gotten some traction lately, so I kind of took it off the list. But yeah, go check out Horror Express if you haven't already also. It's here on YouTube. So, final movie on this list of recommendations is Matango from Toho. This is a lesser-known Toho horror movie, and it's arguably in the same continuity as Godzilla. If you really want to if you really want to draw straws, this movie is you could argue that this is in the same universe as Godzilla and the other kaiju in the Showa era. The movie basically is about a group of friends who go out sailing one day and land on some mysterious island that is almost it's a shipwrecked island, and they slowly discover that the creatures there are humanoid sentient mushrooms. It does sound stupid. The plot sounds dumb, but it's a genuinely scary movie. It is a bit of a slow burn, I will grant you. It's very much a slow burn, but it almost has like an H.P. Lovecraft kind of feel to it. It's very much like I said, a very Lovecraftian story, and it's a very haunting film too, very atmospheric, and Toho is very little known for their horror. They do have some good ones, but this is one I'm surprised doesn't really get a lot of love. It's also known as Attack of the Mushroom People. I think you can find it on here, as well as, again, Tubi. But yeah, Matango, definitely worth your time. So there you go, guys. Those are my 10 lesser-known creature feature movies that you guys should check out. So, and yeah, you guys tell me in the comments below what you guys think of these, and as always, let me know in the comments below what are some other creature feature movies that isn't well known, but you would want to recommend to other people. I hope I worded that right. But anyway, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the multiverse.